Om Shanti. Good evening. How is everyone this evening?
We are keeping well, Sister Dipti, by the grace of God and your love and vibrations of love. Okay.
Good, lovely, lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely to see
Good.
you today.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Yeah,
long
thank
time.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
You keeping well, sister?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Good. So season's greetings to everyone. I think it's the first time that I'm meeting you for 2022. And it's a very powerful time. And today's topic that we also have of rising above is a very special topic. And this is dedicated actually to the founder of the Brahma Kumaris. When we were talking about the program for January, and many of you who may know that this week, the Tuesday just that passed, was the 18th of January. And the 18th of January is a very powerful day in the calendar of the Brahma Kumaris. It's a day that really commemorates and celebrates the life of the founder of the Brahma Kumaris, whom we very fondly call Brahma Baba. And so today's program of Rising Above is really an inspirational energy of a human being who was able to rise above so many things within life's journey, and as being able to rise above it, was able to accomplish and not just achieve what he did for himself, but actually every effort of his became a gift for the world. So this evening, we're going to watch a little bit about the journey of this remarkable human being. And then we're going to then go into the topic of rising above. So I just would like you first just to center yourself and come back into a moment of stillness. You may have had a long day. You may have had an exchange of many energies, lots of thoughts that may still be flowing in the mind, a variety of different things that engages our energy. But I just invite you to take a deep breath and just still the thoughts in your mind. Still the thoughts in your mind so that the flow of the mind becomes natural and flowing. Just allow all these energies to naturally just go within, and realize that beyond all the roles you've played today, all the different things that you may have had to have dealt with, beyond your roles, beyond your responsibilities, even beyond your routine, there's a part of you that is incredibly beautiful and powerful and peaceful. You are an amazing energy. And this energy that you are has given expression to your life's journey. So just become very centered and very present. Sorry about that. I think it must be a problem with the internet. Anyway, so let me just take us through the journey. And so I invite you just to take some time as we sit back and just watch the journey of the life story of a very beautiful human being in this moment. Just give me a moment. We are almost there.
It was the 1800s, and the world was filled with change. The mutiny by the Bengal Army was suppressed, and Britain took over direct government of India from the East India Company. Mahatma Gandhi still lived in South Africa, and Rabindranath Tagore had not yet written Gitanjali. In America, the first telephone message was transmitted, and in Britain, the first electric light was turned on. Charles Darwin published Origin of the Species, and the theory of evolution was born. The Civil War ended in America, and slavery was outlawed. Wilhelm of Prussia was proclaimed Emperor of Germany. In Sindh, India, a son was born to the Kripalani family. He was named Lekraj, and he was an ordinary boy. As the years passed, he grew straight and strong, this son of a schoolmaster. In time, he began a business and married and had children of his own. But still, he was an ordinary man. He was a good man, a kind man, an honorable man, but an ordinary man. And the light touched him and entered his mind. Now his mind was already fine and worked well, but when the light came, he saw that there were shadows in the corners, things left there to think about another tomorrow, things unresolved, matters saved for a day when he had time. But he found he couldn't wait until there was time, for this was not a light he could close his eyes against. This light was inside him and had taken up residence. Eviction was not possible. Not that he really wanted to be without the light, but now and then it would probably have been more comfortable. It did, after all, uncover him to himself. And the light lay in front of his mind like a pathway, or a doorway, or a destination. Sometimes it was barely there, only visible if he concentrated, and he taught himself to keep it where he could see it. Sometimes it filled him until it shone out through his eyes, and others began to sit near him to see what would happen. They knew that something would. And for a while he thought the light was him, was somehow his own essence. But in time he learned that the light was not his, though he had one of his own. This light was other, and it came from some distant place where the rules of physics hung balanced, and time meant something else entirely. And he expected it to be indifferent, but it wasn't. He expected it to be hard with knowledge, but it wasn't. He expected it to be implausible and unreachable and somehow threatening, but it wasn't, and it wasn't, and it wasn't. But it did change him. It laid new understanding gently in his mind, and he saw things he never thought he'd see. He learned about eternity and immortality and consciousness. Things that had seemed important no longer mattered, and he gave away his old life and the things that went with it. Those who waited with him to see what would happen knew this was a chance that fate had given them. He spoke of what the light showed him, and they listened. And some of them changed their days so they could listen. For some, there were obstacles and barriers and difficulties, but they overcame them all, and untangling themselves from the expectations of custom, they came. After all, fate was calling. This was an age when women in that land were made less, and decisions about living were never theirs. And so, from among the ones who came with him, he gave administration into the hands of the women. This was a balance rarely seen in those days and in that place. And so they stayed together, and they were held well and safely for more than a score of years, and they learned how to live. They practiced putting matters of the light first, and matters of the world second. And in time, there was no longer difference to be seen between the two. But winds of change were blowing, and in the way of the world in that time, there was the dissension of boundaries and countries and ownership. Anger and chaos had come to the land, and still they stayed, protected somehow. But when change finally filled the land and closed the door to possibility, they quietly left that place. Three had become 300, and they settled on a mountaintop. And the mountain held them safely, for years still being counted. Every day they listened, and in between as well, and what they learned filled the air they moved through, until it became time itself for them. And time upon time, he told them that what he spoke about came from the light, and not from him. And again he would tell them, and 1,000 times 1,000, until they reached out their own minds and made their hearts available. The light sculpted his thoughts and cleaned away the last shadows, and what he learned, he taught. And the most important of all of the jewels that fell first into his mind and then into their hands was connection with the light. And that was the heart of the matter. Now time passed as it does, and ones who had been very young were now less so. But in all that time, they never thought to leave the mountain. But they did, and it was he himself who sent them. There were only 1 or 2 at first, and they were completely untried in the world outside of their world. They had lived most of their years with signposts and secrets uncovered by the light. This was their guide and their template for living, They understood now, without any doubt, that the light was a separate thing from him. It was the song, and he was the singer. They knew that he stood, open-handed and in between, to sing them the song and make the connection visible and available and theirs. Still, as the years passed, he had become more like the light, his own light becoming at once brighter and softer. And they loved him. They didn't want to go. But it was the beginning of something unimaginable to them in that time and in that place. They understood that if they didn't give what they had been given, it would be as though they had nothing. They knew now that, young and unworldly as they were the ones to begin, the ones who must walk into the lives of others, as he had walked into theirs, the emissaries of the light. They went to places of important papers and the men who understood them. They went empty-handed, and they waited on seats that were bigger than they were themselves. The ones they came to see had many appointments, but no one sent them away. Everyone thought that by the end of the day they would simply not be there. People thought they would be frightened because they were young. People thought they would be intimidated because they were innocent. People thought they could be ignored because they were insignificant. But by the end of the day, the young ones seemed older somehow than the people had thought. They didn't seem intimidated, though the chairs they sat in were much too big. And they had waited, undaunted and patient, until they no longer seemed insignificant. And they had such things to say. When they spoke, their eyes were a place where people saw themselves, whole and wonderful. For some who half remembered their own reflection, awareness flew back into their own eyes. For some, it was the first time they had ever seen themselves clear. Some who listened and listened again offered a dwelling, or a room, or a hall. Stay, they said, or come. If it is known that you are here, there will be others who come and listen. And so they went to towns and villages and cities across that land, and spoke of what they knew in a dwelling, or a room, or a hall. In ones and twos they stayed in those places, and, like he had done, they would tell the people who came that what they spoke about came from the light. For still, the most important of all the jewels was connection with the light. That was still the heart of the matter. As often as they could, they went back to the mountain, for some had stayed there, and others had joined them, and he was there. Sometimes, with distance in his eyes, he would tell them of times to come, of people whose names had not even been written yet, in far places they had never seen, where strange language was spoken. And they would smile with him, because they knew he always spoke truth. But in their secret hearts, they were sure it would be others who traveled to those places, to speak to those people. Surely it would not be them, for such things were still a dream of the future. Now more time passed, as it does, and they had become many in that land. and he was always on the mountain in those years. More and more he stayed inside himself, and the light stayed with him. He spoke less now, but love and eternity stood, wordless, in his eyes. His skin paper thin, and his step slower with age, there came a day when he didn't come out of the room he slept in. He had left his body behind. They came from all over the land. They came to the mountain. They carried their hearts carefully, for fear they would break. They had never thought of a time without him. But losing him never meant they lost the light, for the light was separate and would never finish, any more than time itself would stop. And still, they had a pledge to keep. So wherever they went, they told what they knew, and people came to hear the secrets of time and the reasons for things. And it happened, as it usually does, that the future folded itself into the present, and what he had said in those long past days on the mountain became real. One of them, who had been with him on the mountain when he spoke of the future, turned around in time and found that she had indeed come to a far place where strange language was spoken. And when she spoke to the people there, she had someone with her who changed her language into theirs so they could understand each other. So it began in this new place. Many came, attracted as a magnet is to a lodestar by hearing about the light. And in this land, they called the light by a different word, and sometimes 2 or 3. But it was all only one, for the light is one. It is always and ever only one, and one it will be called here until the end of this, for then it belongs to all, and names of different language can lie quiet for a while. Now in time and in the way of things, people told people who told people of what they were hearing, and how the look in the eyes of the ones who spoke lifted their hearts. Soon there were places opened so that people could come back, and back again. And when there were too many people, more places were found. And so things grew and multiplied. Time carried them across mountains and oceans to places they had never seen. And the winds of destiny took them to another new land, and then another, and another. There were many more than 300 now, and some of them had never even seen the mountain. They had been born in other lands, speaking other language. They listened to stories of the mountain and the one who had left his body behind, who had loved them so much, even before they were born, and their hearts flew. They would sit, with distance in their eyes and one in their minds. This most important thing was done in silence. Their doors were always open to anyone who cared to listen, and people of all kinds came. Sometimes they would take a large public place and hundreds would come, or even thousands. And so, time has turned again, and it is now. The world is a strange and wonderful place in this age. It is filled with fantastic invention and amazing discovery. It is dimmed by fear and want and anger, and brightened by courage and hope and love. It is full. There is darkness, but it is always shot through with light. And this was light. They brought it with them. They gave it away. People took it into their homes and families, and some of them caught light from one another. Some even stumbled into it like an afterthought, or an accident, or a blessing. Some were touched and changed their lives. Some were touched and changed life for other people. And in the way of the world, they organized it and ordered it and smoothed the edges to make it available and familiar. They focused it on what the world needed and named it things that stirred the heart. Programs were created that covered large parts of the globe, and they were as varied as the people who created them. Some collected peace and reignited values. Others celebrated youth, and still others honored age. There were programs that offered freedom of mind to those who had no freedom, and others that joined land to land in cooperation. A manifesto was drawn from the hearts of people, a plan for peace and happiness and equality. And they came together from far places. They were politicians and artists and business people. They were physicians and spiritual leaders and educators. They were women and they were men and they were every color a human being can be. They came out of love for the world and its people. They came because they heard time calling. They came. Did he know how many people would be touched when he saw the future that day on the mountain so long ago? And how many people are still to come? If we hold the laws of physics up to the light, is it like critical mass? For if it is, and the law holds true, the day may come when just one more person is needed. Just one more soul to tip the balance. One more to make the last weight on the scales that measure light against dark. In that instant, the world could change. And it doesn't have to be someone wealthy and influential. It doesn't have to be someone famous or revered. It doesn't have to be a world leader or the head of a religion. It just has to be someone. And time never stops turning, and the light never ceases. And light attracts light. It comes from many places, from many people. Like a rainbow, it is made of all the colors that exist in the human heart. The colors of generosity and care for the world. The colors of open hands and open hearts. The colors of faith of all kinds. And as time stretches from the past into now, there are sometimes the questions of how and what and why. And so a story was written about a journey that began so long ago in a far distant land. A journey you have now become part of. And you hold it now in your hands. And many still cross the sea and come to that same mountain. Some things have changed. Some things are always and ever the same. It is love for one. It was always that.
Well, we all went on a journey there, didn't we? Some of you may have known the Brahma Kumaris for a period of time, and you have connected with some parts of our journey. But today you got to see the history, and you got to see how this journey grew from a seed. And it's a very, very powerful experience of knowing that an individual could surrender to that energy of light and allow that energy of light to make a difference to so many lights. So before I continue, feel free if anyone would just like to say something or make a comment. You know, this is our family time together, so please feel free. If anyone wants to say something, comment.
Thank you, sister. I have nothing else to say other than to say thank you for sharing the beautiful history of Brahma Kumaris, how it started, and Brahma Baba. It was very inspiring, you know. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any other insight? Anything that came up for you? Feel free. Let's talk. Sister Aruna, Sister Shobha, anybody? Kia, beautiful history. Learned, I didn't know. Okay, Kia, it's true. It's such a beautiful journey. You probably saw many of us and you saw the journey of the most recent times, but the journey began a long time ago, very, very powerfully. And it's so beautiful that the vision of one who held his vision so powerfully to the journey of the light, that he was able to rise above. And that's why the topic for tonight is rising above all limitations, rising above all belief systems. Apologies for the sound in the background. Rising above many different aspects. Yeah, such a beautiful aspect, eh, Praveen? People told people who told people. And that's it. You know, it's like something that we experience and taste, how that journey can go further and grow within it. And very often when we see a certain reality of life and we hold that reality and we think, well, this is my only reality, I experience the limitation of that reality. And yet when I'm able to rise above, which is really what Brahma Baba did, he rose above many things which the world called normal and the world called impossible to change. And holding that vision very, very powerfully and taking the power and the current from the truth, he was able to rise above. I think one of the most beautiful aspects that I remember of Brahma Baba's journey as such was he made the first paradigm shift, which was so important to humanity. And that's the paradigm shift of consciousness. Very often in the world, when I operate from a certain level of consciousness, that is the reality I draw around me. And one of the main shifts that made Brahma Baba rise above and also became an inspiration for many of us to rise above that space was his whole journey of just seeing a soul. And as you saw in the clip, there was constant reference to the light connecting with the light and the light seeing the light. And so very often in our life's journey as well, we see from the inspiration of Brahma Baba that if I want to really shift things in my life, if I really want to rise above things in my life's journey, it's not about just changing things on a physical level, but one of the most powerful things that we have to do is change consciousness. And this is a big, big paradigm shift that Brahma Baba took. And it was an incredible space. And as you saw towards the end of the clip, from a very small, humble beginning, because of his vision for humanity, we saw how this journey grew and how as time went by, no matter who you were, no matter which religion you came from, no matter which race you belonged to, no matter what culture you came from, there was a very clear understanding that beyond who you project as a human being, who you are a soul. And this is what Brahma Baba saw. And he was able to keep holding this vision towards each person in humanity. And so through that was able to allow himself, his family, and humanity, the people that he journeyed with, to rise above. And so we see today in the world, I can't find solutions on this level. Very often we see something happening and our level of thinking is equal to the problem. And when that happens, I cannot find clarity and find a solution. And yet we saw Brahma Baba's consciousness, very, very powerful consciousness that was able to rise above the first powerful paradigm shift. And that is the shift of consciousness, so that he was allowing humanity to rise above. Very, very powerful. I found the second aspect in his journey of rising up above was his own efforts. And throughout his whole journey, we saw that Brahma Baba never claimed himself to be a guru. He never claimed himself to be the master. He didn't claim himself ever to be God, but that he was that instrument. And his purpose, sole purpose, was to connect himself with the light and to connect each one of us to the light. And we saw throughout the whole clip as well how Brahma Baba journeyed in such a way that in his every aspect, he brought others closer to the light. Yeah. And so another area that for me motivates me a lot from the journey of Brahma Baba was that how he was always able to stay above and connect with the light. And he provided for the self. For me, I find very often when life becomes a little tight or congested or little tricky and difficult, I remember the motivating energy from Brahma Baba, that your solutions and your method to rise above this will be to connect to that light and to draw power from that light. So Brahma Baba had real clear direction and knew that the method to find solutions and change within life's journey is to connect to the source. And the only way I can rise above things is when I connect to that highest source and to be able to draw from it. I also saw, and you saw it in the clip as well, in many different aspects of the clip that we just witnessed, that Brahma Baba, whilst doing ordinary things, was able to offer an extraordinary experience. And this is a very powerful journey and message for us in humanity, that in order to experience extraordinary moments in our life, it doesn't mean that we have to move far away from the reality of our day-to-day living. We saw in the clip how Brahma Baba interacted, was with the children, was working with the children. He had his a very beautiful connection with nature and the animal kingdom. We saw all these beautiful aspects in the clip. And so while he was living his life very powerfully with the different facets of life's journey, whether it was relationships, whether it was work, whether it was interaction with the animal kingdom, whether it was the interaction with nature, whilst doing everything, he understood the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. And it's when I understand that law of cause and effect in that way, and then I aim to perform the highest acts, it is then that I can rise above and make the ordinary in my life extraordinary. And this is what we saw very beautifully throughout the whole clip, that Brahma Baba, whilst playing his part in the world, like all of us do, was able to change simple moments with an extraordinary experience, with his change of connection, consciousness, and the connection with the one. One of the beautiful things that I remember in this clip as well, and very much as we saw the last part of the clip, where we saw that Baba became more and more silent, but within his eyes there was such love and compassion to allow each one of us to rise to that highest space. And this is a very powerful message as well in this journey of rising up above. If I really need to rise above the deepest sorrows and challenges that humanity faces today, there's a powerful secret to that. I can only serve the world powerfully when I'm actually detached from it. Sometimes that may sound very cold, but that level of detachment doesn't mean that you don't care. But that level of detachment means that you are able to stay in such clarity and such purity and such truth that you are able to go beyond the confusion of emotions and the confusions of fear and the confusions of the influences of the world, and to be able to serve the world powerfully. And we saw that as we saw Brahma Baba's life journey growing, that as much as he was so loving, the method that he took us all beyond was through the method of love and detachment. Sorry about the sound effects in the background. And then just another aspect that for me was also really beautiful, and I think that really also journeys with this whole space of rising above in that way. And that's the journey of just knowing lifestyle. You saw there were in the clips very beautiful silent moments of reflection. Brahma Baba knew how to act, he knew how to interact, he knew how to become silent, and he knew how to draw power. And that life in this way is such that we need to look at our lifestyle. I cannot stay with my own old lifestyle and then try in my old lifestyle to find solutions to a new reality that I want to create. We saw right in the beginning of the clip how Brahma Baba was a jeweler and came from a certain space, and how from that space he was able to work in his lifestyle. He was able to work and create very powerful moments. He would get up very early in the morning and be able to work at certain spaces to be able to create some powerful moments. His way of acting changed, his way of food changed, his way of living changed. So in our journey of rising above, again, we see that very often people do not want to let go of their old habits. They do not want to let go of their old routines. They do not want to let go of their old energies. But there's a yearning. There's a yearning to want to be peaceful. And there's a yearning to want to be happy. And there's a yearning to want to achieve so much. But that can happen outside when something inside changes. And just about an hour ago, I was speaking to a young man, a 27-year-old, and he's struggling a lot in his life, really struggling. And I was just saying to him that you are the magnet. And as long as you clean the magnet that you are, you will begin to draw the right energies in your life. And if we don't spend time cleaning the magnet will always draw things that don't serve us anymore. And we saw that in the life of Brahma Baba. Throughout the whole story that you saw, one of the things Brahma Baba did was he took responsibility for his own life. Today in the world, we can blame many people. We can blame many situations, and we can make many excuses and say, because of this one, see, this has happened. Because of the situation, I can't achieve this. The method to rise above is to take responsibility within. When I take responsibility for myself, no matter what my circumstances may be, no matter what my physical surrounding is, I have the responsibility to, at this time, to really be able to go into that space to know that I'm accountable for myself. I find for myself every day, no matter what happens, one of the things that really helps my journey, and I learned this from the life of Brahma Baba, is that at night, I always write my journal. It's one of the most beautiful aspects in my life's journey. No matter how tired I may be, no matter how late it may be, I just love writing my journal every night. And I look at what life offered me. I look at what God offered me today. I look at how I responded or reacted to things today. And then I take the power to say, I rise above. Because I can't hold another person responsible. I can't hold a situation responsible. In life, actually, we do have all the resources we need. They are available to us. I just have to tap into them and rise above. So this week, as we celebrated the life of Brahma Baba and his most inspiring journey, really rising above and taking each one of us above, to move away from a human consciousness to more and more of an angelic consciousness, because this is what humanity needs right now. And what the world needs right now is to be like a lighthouse, so stable that I can offer direction to humanity, and to be a might house, so that where humanity loses courage, loses hope, has fear, this energy of light and might can serve very, very powerfully. So I had a very beautiful week this week, in celebrating the life of Brahma Baba. And I thank the founder of the Brahma Kumaris for offering this soul a very beautiful journey of inspiration, So no matter what happens, we can rise above. Yes. So many things shared, many things watched, and we have a little bit of time. So I really would like to open it up now to all of us. You know, these kind of moments are impacts on each one of us. So maybe if anyone like to share, feel welcome, really, anybody.
Hi, Sister Dipti.
Hello, Helen.
How are you?
I'm so good, thank you.
Okay, could you give me an example of detachment in ordinary life, everyday life, and
Sure.
the rising of consciousness, how you would see it in everyday life?
Sure. Thank you, Helen. Good question.
Thank you.
So you see, sometimes there are certain situations, like maybe there's somebody in your life that has a certain behavior that you do not approve of. Every time you see that behavior, it may be upset you, it may stir you, it may make you think too much. And every time you get upset, that upset energy is not going to change their behavior, and it's going to even take away more of your power. So detachment in that way says, I have to find another way so that I don't always get upset when this happens. So detachment is where I'm taking responsibility to take care of my own feelings and not giving my feelings away to the situation to direct. So the next time that person does the same thing, with wisdom, I stay stable. With wisdom, that I'm not going to get affected, because I know when I'm going to get upset, they're not going to change who they are. Neither am I going to feel great after this. So detachment comes from a space of fullness. A simple example is, you know, when you bake a cake, and when the cake is well baked, it leaves the side of the pan, isn't it? That means the cake is well baked. So similarly in our life, when we are well baked, that means we are full of wisdom. We are full of the right understandings of life. I'm able to step away from all this kind of behavior that would previously upset me, that would previously disturb me, that would previously take away my peace. So detachment is not cold, but detachment is real wisdom to look at certain situations in your life on a daily basis and say, this situation is not helping my life to grow. I'm getting upset. This person's behavior is like this. If I get involved, I'm just going to get more upset. So with peace and love and wisdom, I stay free from it. I'm not running away. Detachment doesn't mean you run away from a situation, but detachment means that with wisdom, you know how to look after yourself and offer the best in that situation without being upset. Okay? Does it make more sense? Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Lakshmi. Anybody else would like to share anything? Feel free. There are wonderful people on this group here today who've also had beautiful experiences. And beautiful, Lebocha. What is the first step to cleaning the magnet? I'd like the example of the 27-year-old. Yes, I just journeyed with this 27-year-old an hour ago. And it's amazing. I've met him a few evenings now. And one of the things we're working with is, we know that one of the things that really cleans the magnet is cleaning our thought pattern. Because if my thought pattern is in a certain paradigm, then it will always draw similar situations, you know. It's like the very common saying that goes, if you always think like you always thought, you'll always get what you always got. You always think like you always thought, you'll always get what you always got. So if I stop that method of thinking through wisdom and understanding, then I change that thinking pattern. And then the second step is to put that beautiful thoughts in a very powerful energy of the highest source, so that I'm able to give it the right nourishment. It's like a plant, a seed. A seed can't grow on its own. It has to be planted well. It has to be watered well. It needs sunshine, and it needs a good environment to grow in. So similarly, this magnet that we're creating to draw the right energies requires these steps. And Lebo, we're very happy at some time to deepen this journey with you of cleaning out the magnet. Okay? Thanks, Lebo Khan. Any other final thoughts? Some of my good friends are on this group. Please feel free to share. You've also had a beautiful journey with this wonderful human being called Brahma Baba.
Sister Dipti, hi.
Hello, Helen.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
You know, we're talking about death, and I was listening to Sister Shivani, and she said you must feel joy when a person departs. But what if you got unresolved issues like anger towards that person? How can you just feel joy? Because she said if you think bad thoughts, you keep them back. How does one level the playing fields?
Thank you, Helen. It's an important question that you asked, and it's a deep question that you have asked as well. And that is why our journey right now on our spiritual path is on a daily basis to clean our energy spaces, to clean our minds, to clean our hearts, to clean our interactions. And, you know, ultimately, we are everyday work in progress. We're not perfect, but every day we are work in progress. And the most important thing along this journey, where I can be at peace with myself when these sudden changes in life happen, like death, is when I know I have offered my best. I've been doing work in progress. The regrets in our life come when we know we could have changed something and we didn't. Maybe it may not bring 100% results, but I've worked towards it. I've had a purity of intention towards it. So it's a big question, and this question of yours, Helen, is also requires another talk on its own. So I'm happy to bring this up with our programs group. But these are important kind of topics that Lebo also brought up. So I cannot answer it fully because of our time constraint. But all I can say in summary form is all we can do is work on ourselves daily and make the effort on a daily basis such that I can go at night sleeping knowing I've tried my best today. The rest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Okay. Any last thoughts, any last comments? It's almost 8 o'clock and we'd like to go into a meditation, a short meditation. So thank you everyone for being with us this evening and celebrating and respecting the life of a very beautiful soul who has touched many lives. Thank you. Let us now have a meditation. Thank you. So once again, I invite you into a powerful space of stillness, space of power, and step into a space of just being present. I, the soul, an eternal, immortal being who journeys through time, is a resourceful being filled with so much peace, so much power, so much love. Within my being, I have the capacity to rise above the many situations of life. I am resourceful. So I step into the space of stillness. I step into the space of silence. And like Brahma Baba, who always connected each one to the light, I once again draw my power and connection to that highest source of light, the supreme source of peace, power, and purity. As I draw power from the highest source, it fills me with the capacity to rise above, the many situations of life. I silently and powerfully continue to draw from the source. I stay with this experience and generate the power within my being to be able to respond to life with peace, power, and dignity. Like Brahma Baba, I take deep, deep inspiration to stay close to the source and to serve the world from an angelic consciousness. Om Shanti. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being with us this evening. Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister, for your blissful meditation and your inspiring talk. Thank you. Good night and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Dipti. Good night.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you, Dipti Ben.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Kia.
Thank you, sister, for that inspiring talk and new information that we picked up.
Oh, good, Brother Raj. Lovely.
Thank you, Sister Dipti. It's
Pleasure.
lovely here. Hope to connect with you soon to journey on that cleaning of the magnet.
Oh, lovely. No, we should. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, Brother Mirko, I cannot play the music because of the shared screen. So that's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Great. So we have a talk that is coming up.
Good night.
Good night. So we have Sister Nita that's going to be on Saturday, the 22nd, renewing the self with the spirit of well-being. Beautiful. So do join us from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. this Saturday. Have a powerful evening. Good night. Take care.